Sarah Kim had always been careful about her phone number. The 24-year-old marketing assistant living in downtown Seoul never gave it out to strangers, never posted it online, and always made sure her social media profiles were private. She thought she was safe in the digital world that surrounded her daily life. It started on a rainy Tuesday evening in March. Sarah was sitting in her small apartment, scrolling through her phone after a long day at work. The notification sound chimed and a message from an unknown number appeared on her screen. The message was in Korean, simple and friendly. "Hi, I think we met at the coffee shop yesterday. You dropped your pen, remember? I wanted to return it to you." Sarah stared at the message, confused. She hadn't been to any coffee shop yesterday, and she certainly hadn't dropped a pen. She had been working late at the office and came straight home. The number wasn't saved in her contacts, and the profile picture was blank. Her first instinct was to ignore it, thinking it was just a wrong number. But curiosity got the better of her. She typed back carefully, "I think you have the wrong number. I wasn't at any coffee shop yesterday." The response came quickly. "Oh, I'm so sorry. My mistake. You seem really nice, though. What's your name?" Something about the message felt off to Sarah. The tone was too casual, too friendly for someone who had just admitted to texting the wrong person. She decided not to respond and went about her evening routine, cooking dinner and watching her favorite drama series. But the messages didn't stop. Over the next 3 days, the unknown number continued texting her. The messages started innocent enough, asking about her day, complimenting her supposed kindness, trying to start casual conversations. Each message was polite and seemed harmless, but they kept coming despite Sarah never responding after that first exchange. "Good morning. Hope you have a beautiful day today. I saw a cute dog on the street and thought you might like to see the photo. The weather is nice today. Are you enjoying it?" Sarah began to feel uncomfortable. She blocked the number, thinking that would be the end of it. But within hours, a new number started messaging her with the exact same tone and style. This person clearly wasn't giving up easily. The new messages were slightly different but carried the same energy. "Hi again. I got a new phone. Hope we can still be friends." This time, Sarah didn't respond at all. She blocked this number too. For a week, Sarah enjoyed peace and quiet. She almost forgot about the strange messages and went back to her normal routine. She worked at her marketing job during the day, met friends for dinner, and spent her evenings at home reading books or watching movies. But the calm didn't last long. On a Friday night, while Sarah was having dinner with her college friend Mina at their favorite restaurant, her phone buzzed. A new unknown number had sent her a message that made her stomach drop. "I know you've been blocking me, but I'm not giving up. We need to talk." This message was different. It wasn't trying to be friendly anymore. There was something demanding about it, something that made Sarah's hands shake slightly as she held her phone. Mina noticed her friend's sudden change in mood. "What's wrong?" "You look like you've seen a ghost," Mina said, putting down her chopsticks. Sarah showed her the message. Mina frowned as she read it. "This is creepy. How does this person keep getting new numbers to contact you?" "I have no idea," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been blocking every number, but they keep coming back." Mina advised her to report it to the police, but Sarah hesitated. What would she tell them? That someone was sending her text messages? It didn't seem like enough to warrant police attention, and she worried they wouldn't take her seriously. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept checking her phone, expecting more messages. Around 2 a.m., her phone buzzed again. This time, the message contained information that made her blood run cold. "I know you work at Digital Marketing Solutions on Gangnam Street. I know you live in apartment 205 in the blue building on Myeongdong Road. Stop ignoring me, Sarah Kim." Sarah's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. This person knew her full name, her workplace, and her exact address. She had never shared this information with anyone online, and she was always careful about her privacy. How could a complete stranger know these details about her life? She immediately called Mina, even though it was the middle of the night. Her friend answered on the second ring, her voice groggy with sleep. "Sarah? What's wrong?" "Mina, they know where I live. They know where I work. They know my full name," Sarah said, her voice shaking with fear. "Who knows? What are you talking about?" Sarah explained the latest message. Mina was fully awake now, her voice filled with concern. "Sarah, you need to call the police right now. This isn't just some random person anymore. This is stalking." But before Sarah could respond, another message came through. "I'm closer than you think. Look outside your window." Sarah's blood turned to ice. Her apartment was on the second floor, and her bedroom window faced the street. With trembling hands, she walked slowly to the window and barely lifted the corner of her curtain to peek outside. The street was mostly empty, with only a few parked cars under the streetlights. But there, standing under the streetlight directly across from her building, was a figure in dark clothing. The person was too far away for Sarah to make out any details, but they were clearly looking up at her building. Sarah quickly stepped back from the window, her heart racing. She called the police immediately, but when they arrived 20 minutes later, the figure was gone. The officers took her statement and advised her to keep records of all the messages, but they said there wasn't much they could do without more concrete evidence of a threat. The next morning, Sarah received a message that changed everything. "You called the police on me last night. That wasn't very nice, Sarah. Now I'm upset." The person had been watching her closely enough to know she had called the police. Sarah realized this wasn't just a random stalker or someone playing a prank. This person was organized, informed, and had resources she couldn't understand. She decided to take time off work and stay with Mina for a few days. She packed a bag quickly and left her apartment, constantly looking over her shoulder. As she walked to the subway station, she felt like eyes were watching her every move. During her stay at Mina's place, the messages continued, but they were different now. Instead of trying to contact Sarah directly, the messages contained photos, pictures of her walking to work, sitting in cafes, meeting friends for dinner. Someone had been following her and documenting her daily activities for weeks, maybe months. "You look beautiful in the red dress you wore to dinner last Tuesday," one message said, accompanied by a photo of Sarah that she didn't remember anyone taking. Another message showed a picture of her apartment building taken from across the street, with the text, "I miss seeing you at home. When will you come back?" Sarah realized that whoever was doing this had been watching her for a long time before they ever sent the first message. The wrong number text had been a lie from the beginning. This person had specifically targeted her, and she had no idea why. The most frightening part was how much they knew about her life. They knew her schedule, her habits, her favorite places to eat. They knew which subway line she took to work and what time she usually came home. It was as if they had been studying her like a research project. On her fourth night staying at Mina's apartment, Sarah received a message that made her realize she was dealing with something much bigger and more dangerous than a simple stalker. "Your friend Mina lives in a nice place too. Apartment 1502, Tower B. Tell her I said hello." The person now knew exactly where Sarah was hiding. They had followed her to Mina's place and figured out which apartment they were staying in. Sarah and Mina immediately packed their bags and went to a hotel in a different part of the city. But even at the hotel, registered under Mina's name with cash payment, the messages found Sarah. "Hotels are expensive, aren't they? Room 718 must have a nice view." This was when Sarah realized she wasn't just dealing with one person. No single individual could have this level of surveillance capability, this much information, or this many phone numbers to use. She was being tracked by an organization with serious resources and technology. The messages started becoming more direct about what they wanted. "We need to meet in person, Sarah. You've been running around too much lately. It's time to have a conversation." "Who is we?" Sarah typed back, her hands shaking as she finally decided to respond directly. The answer came quickly and changed her understanding of everything that had been happening to her. People who don't like to be ignored. People who have been very patient with you. People who know exactly who you are and what you've been doing. Sarah stared at the message, trying to understand what they meant by what you've been doing. She lived a simple life: work, friends, family dinners on weekends. She had never been involved in anything illegal or dangerous. She couldn't understand why anyone would target her this way. But then she remembered something that had happened 6 months earlier. She had been working late at her marketing company when she accidentally accessed a wrong folder on the shared company server. Inside, she had seen financial documents that didn't make sense to her, large payments to companies she had never heard of, with notes written in code-like language. At the time, she had quickly closed the folder and never mentioned it to anyone. She assumed it was confidential business information that she wasn't supposed to see. The documents had seemed strange, but she was just a junior marketing assistant. She figured the senior staff knew what they were doing. Now, lying awake in the hotel room with Mina sleeping beside her, Sarah wondered if those documents were connected to what was happening to her now. Had she accidentally seen something she wasn't supposed to see? Was her own company involved in something illegal? The next morning brought a message that confirmed her worst fears. "We know you saw the files, Sarah. We know you opened the folder on November 15th at 9:47 p.m. We need to discuss what you're going to do about that." They had been monitoring her computer activity at work. They knew exactly when she had accessed those files, even though it had been completely accidental. Sarah finally understood that she had somehow stumbled into something much bigger and more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Her innocent life in Seoul was about to be turned upside down by forces she didn't understand, and there was no going back to the simple existence she had known just weeks before. The people behind these messages were not going to let her disappear or ignore them any longer. Sarah Kim was about to discover that some secrets are too dangerous to know, even by accident. The meeting location came in a message at 6 a.m. sharp. Namsan Park, near the old tower stairs. Come alone at 8 p.m. tonight. Bring your phone and nothing else. No police, no friends, no tricks. Sarah sat in the hotel bed, staring at the message while Mina slept beside her. Her mind raced through possibilities, but every option seemed to lead to the same dangerous conclusion. These people weren't going to stop until they got what they wanted, and now she was beginning to understand what that might be. She spent the day researching her company online, looking for any information about the files she had accidentally seen. Digital marketing solutions seemed like a normal business on the surface, but Sarah noticed something strange. Many of their biggest clients were companies she had never heard of, despite working there for 2 years. When she searched for these client companies online, she found very little information about what they actually did. The more she dug, the more questions arose. Her company claimed to handle marketing for over 50 businesses, but Sarah had only ever worked on campaigns for about 10 clients. What was the rest of the company doing? Who were these other clients, and why were their accounts handled so secretly? At 3 p.m., Sarah made a decision that would change everything. Instead of going to the meeting alone, she decided to learn more about who she was dealing with first. She called her older brother Jun-ho, who worked as a security consultant for large corporations in Seoul. "Jun-ho, I need your help with something." "But you have to promise me you won't get the police involved yet," Sarah said when he answered. "Sarah, you sound scared. What's going on?" She explained everything: the messages, the stalking, the files at work, the meeting request. Jun-ho listened in silence until she finished. "Sarah, this sounds like organized crime. You can't go to that meeting alone. But if I don't go, they'll just keep escalating. They know where I am all the time anyway." Jun-ho was quiet for a moment. "I have contacts who deal with this kind of situation. Let me make some calls. Don't go anywhere until I get back to you." 2 hours later, Jun-ho called back with information that made Sarah's situation even more terrifying. Sarah, I talked to someone who knows about Korean organized crime groups. There are several that use advanced surveillance and technology to track people, but they usually only target people for specific reasons. Either someone owes them money, has information they want, or has seen something they shouldn't have. So this is really the Mafia? It looks that way. And if they're contacting you about files from your company, then your workplace might be involved in money laundering or other illegal activities. Sarah felt sick. Her normal, boring marketing job was apparently connected to organized crime, and she had accidentally stumbled into their business. What should I do? We need evidence before we go to the police. If these people have connections inside law enforcement, going to the regular police could make things worse. I'm going to give you a small recording device. Go to the meeting. But stay in public areas where there are other people around. Record everything they say. That evening, Sarah walked slowly toward Namsan Park. The recording device was hidden in her jacket pocket, and Jun Ho was positioned nearby with two of his security friends, ready to help if something went wrong. The plan was for her to meet these people, find out what they wanted, and gather evidence of their criminal activity. The park was busy with evening joggers and couples taking walks, which made Sarah feel slightly safer. She found the old tower stairs and waited, her heart pounding with each passing minute. At exactly 8 p.m., a woman approached her. She was well-dressed, probably in her 30s, and looked like she could be anyone's office colleague or friend. Nothing about her appearance suggested she was involved in organized crime. "Sarah Kim?" the woman asked politely. "Yes. My name is Ms. Lee. Thank you for coming. Should we walk while we talk?" They began walking along one of the park paths. Ms. Lee's tone was friendly and professional, like a business meeting. "Sarah, I work for people who are very concerned about information security. Your company handles marketing for several businesses that require complete privacy about their operations. I don't understand. I just do social media posts and email campaigns. We know. But you also accessed files that contain sensitive financial information about our clients. This information could cause serious problems if it became public or fell into the wrong hands." Sarah decided to be direct. "Are you talking about illegal activities?" Ms. Lee smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm talking about private business matters that some people might misunderstand. Our clients value their privacy very highly, and they pay well for complete discretion. So you've been following me and threatening me because I accidentally opened a computer folder? We needed to understand what kind of person you are, Sarah. Whether you're someone who can be trusted with sensitive information, or whether you're someone who might cause problems." They walked in silence for a moment while Sarah processed this. "What do you want from me?" "We want you to continue working at your company as normal. But we also want you to help us with something specific. We need someone on the inside who can access certain files and information when we need it." The request hit Sarah like a punch to the stomach. They wanted her to become a spy inside her own company. "You want me to steal information?" "We want you to provide us with updates about what your company is working on, who they're meeting with, and what kinds of projects are being planned. Think of it as extended customer service. And if I say no?" Ms. Lee stopped walking and turned to face Sarah directly. "Sarah, you seem like a smart young woman. I'm sure you understand that we've invested significant time and resources in this conversation. People who make those kinds of investments don't usually accept no as an answer." The threat was clear, even though it was delivered with a polite smile. Sarah felt trapped between cooperating with criminals and putting herself in greater danger by refusing. "I need time to think about it." "Of course, but not too much time. We'll contact you tomorrow with specific instructions for your first assignment. It will be something simple just to help you get comfortable with the arrangement." Ms. Lee handed Sarah a new phone. "Use this for all communications with us. Keep your regular phone, but use this one when we need to talk. Don't try to trace it or take it to any authorities. We'll know if you do. After Ms. Lee left, Sarah met with Junho and his friends. The recording had captured the entire conversation, but when they listened to it, they realized how carefully Ms. Lee had spoken. She never mentioned anything specifically illegal, never made direct threats, and never used names or specific details that could be used as evidence. "She's a professional," one of Junho's security friends observed. "This conversation wouldn't be enough to prove criminal activity in court." "But we know they're criminals, right?" Sarah asked. "Almost certainly. But knowing and proving are two different things. These people are smart and experienced." That night, Sarah barely slept. The new phone sat on the hotel nightstand like a bomb waiting to explode. She knew that the moment she received the first assignment, she would be crossing a line that she could never come back from. The next morning, the phone buzzed with a message. "Good morning, Sarah. Your first task is simple. We need you to take photos of any documents on your supervisor's desk that mention client meetings or new projects. Just use your regular phone camera during lunch when the office is quiet." Sarah stared at the message. It seemed almost harmless, just taking pictures of papers on a desk. But she knew it was the first step down a path that would lead to more serious crimes. Once she did this first task, they would have evidence that she was cooperating with them, which they could use to force her into bigger and more dangerous activities. She thought about quitting her job and leaving Seoul entirely, but she realized these people would probably follow her anywhere. They had already demonstrated their ability to track her movements and find her no matter where she went. Sarah made a decision that surprised even herself. Instead of doing the task or refusing it, she decided to learn more about who she was really dealing with. She spent her lunch break researching Korean organized crime groups online, trying to match what she had experienced with information about different criminal organizations. What she found terrified her even more than she had expected. The level of sophistication, the technology, the business connections. It all pointed to one particular group that had been in the news recently. A Korean organized crime syndicate that specialized in money laundering through legitimate businesses, cyber crimes, and corruption of public officials. This wasn't just a local gang or small criminal group. Sarah had accidentally stumbled into the operations of one of the most powerful and dangerous criminal organizations in South Korea. They were known for their ruthlessness in protecting their business interests and their ability to operate with near impunity due to connections within law enforcement and government. The realization made Sarah understand that her situation was far more serious than she had imagined. These people didn't just want her cooperation. They needed it to protect operations worth millions of dollars. And people who threatened that kind of money didn't usually survive long enough to become a problem. That afternoon, Sarah received another message on the special phone. "We haven't received the photos yet, Sarah. Is there a problem?" Sarah typed back, "I need more time to figure out how to do this safely." The response came immediately. "Sarah, we've been very patient with you, but our patience has limits. You have until tomorrow at noon to complete the first task. After that, we'll need to explore other options." Sarah understood that other options meant they would stop trying to convince her to cooperate voluntarily. She was running out of time to figure out how to escape this situation before it became deadly. But Sarah Kim was about to discover that sometimes the only way out of a trap is to spring it deliberately, and that the most dangerous game she could play was the one where she pretended to cooperate while actually gathering the evidence needed to bring down the entire organization that had torn her life apart. Sarah made her choice at 11:45 a.m., 15 minutes before the deadline. She took photos of 3 documents on her supervisor's desk, but she also did something else. She carefully photographed the serial numbers and model information of every piece of office equipment in sight, memorized the names on all the doors she passed, and noted the security camera locations throughout the building. When she sent the requested photos to the special phone, she also began documenting everything she could about her own company's operations. If she was going to be forced into this situation, she was going to gather evidence that could eventually bring down everyone involved. The response came quickly. "Excellent work, Sarah. See how easy that was? Your next assignment will come tomorrow." But Sarah was already planning something much bigger than they expected. That evening, she met with Jun-ho at a different location, a crowded restaurant in Itaewon where they could blend in with tourists and expats. She had made a decision that terrified her, but felt like the only path forward. "I'm going to do what they want," she told her brother. "But I'm going to document everything and build a case against them." Jun-ho nearly choked on his food. "Sarah, that's incredibly dangerous. If they discover what you're really doing, they're going to keep escalating their demands whether I cooperate or not. This way, at least I have some control over what happens. What do you need from me? I need you to be my backup system. I'll pass information to you regularly, and if something happens to me, you'll have everything needed to give to the authorities." Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah became a double agent in her own life. During the day, she completed increasingly complex tasks for the criminal organization. They had her take photos of client files, copy email addresses from her supervisor's computer, and even install a small device on the company's main server that allowed them remote access to certain files. But she was also documenting every instruction they gave her, every location they sent her to, and every piece of technology they asked her to use. She learned that the device they had her install was manufactured by a specific company in China and that the serial numbers could be traced. She photographed every message they sent her and noted the times when different phone numbers were used. Most importantly, she began to understand the structure of their operation. The messages came from different people at different times of day, suggesting shifts and specific roles. Ms. Lee appeared to be a middle manager, not the person making final decisions. There were references to approval from upstairs and checking with the team that indicated a larger organizational hierarchy. Sarah's marketing background actually helped her analyze their communications patterns. She noticed that certain types of requests came on specific days of the week, that the language used varied between different operators, and that response times suggested they were working from an organized schedule rather than randomly. 3 weeks into her double life, Sarah made a breakthrough discovery. While installing another device in her company's conference room, she overheard a phone conversation between her supervisor and someone he called Mr. Park. The conversation was mostly in code, but Sarah understood enough to realize that her company wasn't just doing marketing for criminals. It was completely owned and operated by the criminal organization. Digital Marketing Solutions was a front company. Every employee except the senior management had no idea they were working for organized crime. The legitimate clients were real businesses, but they were also money laundering operations. The marketing campaigns Sarah had been working on were actually helping to create fake business activity that made illegal money appear legal. This revelation changed everything. Sarah wasn't just being forced to spy on her innocent workplace, she was documenting the operations of a major money laundering network. The files she had accidentally seen months earlier contained records of millions of dollars being moved through fake marketing contracts and advertising purchases. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah began photographing financial documents whenever she had the chance. She copied client databases, recorded phone conversations using an app Jun-ho had installed on her phone, and even managed to access the company's accounting software during lunch breaks. But the criminal organization was also escalating their demands. They wanted her to recruit another employee to help with their operations. They asked her to provide personal information about her co-workers, including their financial situations, family details, and any personal problems that might make them vulnerable to coercion. "We think your colleague Min Jun would be a good addition to our team," Ms. Lee told Sarah during their weekly meeting in the park. "He has gambling debts, doesn't he?" Sarah's stomach turned. Min-jun was a friendly guy who worked in the accounting department. She had heard rumors that he liked to play poker, but she didn't know he had serious debt problems. The idea of helping these criminals trap another innocent person made her feel sick. "I don't know much about his personal life," Sarah lied. "We think you could find out. People trust you, Sarah. You're good at making friends and getting information." This request crossed a line for Sarah. Taking photos and installing devices was one thing, but actively recruiting victims was something she couldn't bring herself to do. She told Miss Ma Lee she needed time to approach Min-jun carefully. But instead of recruiting Min-jun, Sarah warned him. She told him that she had overheard office gossip about his gambling and suggested he might want to be more private about his personal life at work. She couldn't tell him the whole truth without putting him in danger, but she could at least make him more cautious. A week later, Sarah discovered that her warning had probably saved Min-jun's life. During another overheard conversation, she learned that employees who refused to cooperate with the organization were usually transferred to other projects that involved much more dangerous work, or they simply disappeared entirely. Sarah realized she was running out of time. The longer she stayed in this situation, the more likely it became that the criminals would discover her real activities or force her to do something that would make her directly complicit in serious crimes. She had been gathering evidence for over a month, and Jun-ho had been quietly sharing selected information with a contact in the Seoul Metropolitan Police who specialized in organized crime investigations. But they needed something bigger, evidence of specific crimes and the identity of the leadership, before they could move forward with arrests. The opportunity came when Ms. Lee informed Sarah that she would be attending a special meeting. "We want you to meet some of our senior team members. It's a sign of trust, Sarah. We're considering offering you a permanent position with better pay and more interesting work." The meeting was scheduled for a Saturday evening at a high-end restaurant in Gangnam. Sarah was told to dress professionally and bring the special phone and any documents she had collected during her recent assignments. Sarah knew this meeting would either be her chance to gather the final evidence needed to bring down the organization, or the moment when they decided she knew too much to be allowed to continue living. Either way, it was the end of her double life. On the Saturday morning before the meeting, Sarah met with Jun-ho one final time. She gave him copies of everything she had documented, including financial records, phone numbers, locations, names, and photos of the technology they had forced her to install. "If something happens to me tonight, give all of this to your police contact," she told him. "There's enough here to prove that Digital Marketing Solutions is a front for money laundering and that this organization has been operating illegally for years. Sarah, you don't have to go to this meeting. We have enough evidence. We could go to the police right now. But we don't have the leadership. All we have is Ms. Lee and some middle-level operators. If we move now, the people at the top will just disappear and start over somewhere else." That evening, Sarah arrived at the restaurant wearing a dark blue dress and carrying only the special phone and a small purse. But hidden in her purse was the smallest recording device Jun-ho had been able to find, capable of capturing hours of audio. The restaurant was exactly what she had expected: expensive, private, and probably chosen because the owners were either part of the organization or too afraid to ask questions about what happened in their private dining rooms. Ms. Lee met her at the entrance and led her to a back room where 3 men in expensive suits were waiting. They looked like successful businessmen, not criminals, which Sarah now understood was exactly the point. "Sarah, I'd like you to meet Mr. Park, Mr. Chen, and Mr. Yamamoto," Ms. Lee said. "They're the regional directors for our marketing operations." Sarah recognized Mr. Park's voice from the phone conversations she had overheard at work. She tried to memorize every detail about the other 2 men, their faces, their clothes, their accents when they spoke. The conversation started with pleasantries and compliments about Sarah's work over the past month. They praised her professionalism, her attention to detail, and her ability to complete assignments without asking unnecessary questions. Sarah has exactly the qualities we look for in our permanent team members, Mr. Park said. Intelligent, reliable, and discreet. Mr. Chen leaned forward. We have operations in several countries, Sarah. Would you be interested in international opportunities? Perhaps working in our Hong Kong office or helping us expand into new markets in Southeast Asia? Sarah realized they were offering her a chance to become a full-time criminal. The international opportunities probably meant money laundering operations in other countries, or worse. That sounds very interesting, she replied carefully. What would that kind of work involve? Similar to what you've been doing, but on a larger scale, Mr. Yamamoto explained. Instead of just one front company, you'd be helping manage several legitimate businesses that provide services to our clients. What kinds of clients? Mr. Park smiled. People who need privacy in their financial transactions, business owners who want to minimize their tax obligations, investors who prefer to keep their activities confidential. It was the clearest admission of criminal activity Sarah had heard from any of them. They were describing money laundering, tax evasion, and financial fraud, even though they were using polite business language. The conversation continued for over an hour, with the men explaining their operations in detail. They spoke about moving money between countries, creating fake business transactions, and using legitimate companies to hide illegal activities. They mentioned specific amounts, millions of dollars flowing through their network every month. Most importantly, they revealed the scope of their organization. It wasn't just Korean, it was an international criminal network with operations across Asia, connections to similar groups in other countries, and the ability to move money and people across borders without detection by law enforcement. Sarah learned that Digital Marketing Solutions was just one of dozens of front companies they operated. They owned restaurants, import, export businesses, technology companies, and even a chain of language schools. Each business served as a way to create fake transactions that made illegal money appear legitimate. As the evening progressed, Sarah began to understand that she was in much more danger than she had realized. These weren't just local criminals. They were part of a sophisticated international organization with resources and connections that could reach anywhere in the world. When the meeting finally ended, Mr. Park handed Sarah a first-class plane ticket to Hong Kong. Your new position starts next month. You'll be working with our team there to establish marketing operations for several new businesses we're launching. Sarah accepted the ticket, knowing she would never use it. She had everything she needed to bring down their local operations, and probably enough to help international law enforcement agencies track their broader network. The next morning, Sarah and Jun-ho met with Detective Kim from the Seoul Metropolitan Police Organized Crime Unit. They handed over everything Sarah had gathered during her 6 weeks as an unwilling double agent. Detective Kim studied the evidence for several hours before speaking. This is the most comprehensive documentation of organized crime activity we've seen in years. Sarah, what you've done is incredibly brave, but it was also incredibly dangerous. What happens now? Sarah asked. We coordinate with international law enforcement and plan simultaneous raids in multiple countries. This organization has been operating for years, but with this evidence, we can finally shut them down. The raids happened 3 weeks later. In Seoul, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Bangkok, police arrested over 40 people connected to the network. Digital Marketing Solutions was shut down, along with 12 other front companies. Millions of dollars in assets were seized, and financial records were provided to tax authorities in 4 different countries. Sarah's former supervisor, Ms. Lee, and all 3 men from the restaurant meeting were arrested. The special phones and technological equipment Sarah had been forced to install provided crucial evidence about their methods and connections. But Sarah's ordeal wasn't over. Because she had been so deeply involved in gathering evidence, she had to testify in multiple court proceedings. The defense lawyers tried to portray her as a willing participant in the criminal activities rather than a victim who had been coerced into cooperation. The trials lasted for 18 months. Sarah had to relive her terror and fear over and over again, describing in detail how the organization had stalked her, threatened her, and forced her into criminal activities. She had to explain her decision to become a double agent, knowing that some people would view her cooperation with criminals as morally questionable. In the end, the evidence was overwhelming. Mr. Park received a 15-year prison sentence for money laundering and organized crime activities. Mr. Chen and Mr. Yamamoto were extradited to Hong Kong and Japan, respectively, to face charges in their home countries. Ms. Lee received 8 years for her role in recruiting and managing assets like Sarah. Sarah's company supervisor received 5 years for his role in operating the front company, even though he claimed he had no idea he was working for criminals. The court didn't believe his claims of innocence, given the extensive evidence of his direct communications with the organization's leadership. Today, Sarah works for a legitimate marketing company in Busan, far from Seoul. She underwent therapy to deal with the trauma of her experience, and she still occasionally has nightmares about being followed or watched. But she also knows that her courage and quick thinking helped bring down a criminal network that had been operating for over a decade. The evidence she gathered led to investigations in 6 different countries and the seizure of assets worth over $50 million. Sarah learned that a single moment of accidental curiosity, opening the wrong folder on a computer, could change her entire life. But she also learned that ordinary people have the power to fight back against organized crime, even when they feel completely powerless. Her case became a training example for law enforcement agencies around the world, showing how criminals use technology and psychological manipulation to recruit unwilling accomplices, and how victims can turn the situation around to become the key to bringing down their tormentors. Sarah Kim's story proves that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones who seem most professional and polite, and that the bravest thing an ordinary person can do is refuse to let fear win, even when the stakes are life and death.